Yes, sir.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Supervisors, Mr. Patterson, Ms. Bond. I'd like to go ahead and call the regular Board of Supervisors meeting for February 6th to order. Here before us, and we do have an agenda, and we'll go ahead and begin with having our invocation, and also second right after that our pledge of allegiance. So leading us in prayer would be Mr. Crosby.
Our Father in heaven, we are indeed grateful for this beautiful day that Thou hast provided us. We're grateful for the opportunities before us today, and ask that Thou will bless us with Thy Spirit, that we might have wisdom in our actions and in our decisions. Please bless the good members of this county and the citizens, that Thy choicest blessings may be poured out upon them. We're grateful for this free country and the servicemen and women who serve to protect and keep us free. We're grateful for their sacrifice. We say in the name of Thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Okay, Mr. Paul Hancock.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Hancock. Also, Mr. Crosby, appreciate the prayer and also leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. With that, board members, let's go ahead and proceed down to notice of public meeting for the Public Health Service District held in conjunction with the Board of Supervisors meeting. I'd like to go ahead and call that meeting to order, the Public Health Service. We do have a couple items on the agenda for that, so Mr. Saxton.
Good morning, Chairman and members of the board. The first item is starting with a public hearing and then possible approval of a $25 processing fee for collecting lab specimens and shipment to the CDD laboratory in San Antonio, Texas.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Okay, with that, let me seek a motion to open for public hearing.
Make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Shamley, second.
Second.
By Mr. Shirley. Okay, with that, gentlemen, we'll go ahead and call for the question of opening our public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
One.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. We are here in public hearing mode now. So with that, Mr. Saxton, or who's going to provide information on the public hearing?
Just anybody, I guess, anybody that wants to come forward. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if there's any slips.
Okay. With that, let me go ahead and thank you for your guidance, Mr. Shirley and Mr. Shamley. I guess there's public hearing is open now. If anybody wishes to bring information to the board for public hearing, we will do so at this time. Okay. I don't see any hands, or we don't have any information as well. So with that, let me go ahead and give you some time, Mr. Saxon, on that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have physicians in the area who refer uninsured and low-income people to us for blood draws and collection of different specimens. So we do the blood draw, collect the specimen, then ship that specimen to a laboratory in San Antonio, Texas. So this provides the people and the physicians with laboratory information so they can either confirm their diagnosis or make a correct diagnosis and then treat the people appropriately. Without this service, those low-income, uninsured people would not have available to them laboratory services. Some people also who are insured, because this is less expensive, will come to us with their lab slips for their blood draws. So it saves the people money. A lot of insured people will go to regular laboratories or hospitals and have their blood drawn, but this is an alternative for people and saves them money.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other, again, we're in public hearing, so I'll call for the public if they wish to come up and address that. See none again. So with that, I guess, Board Supervisors, we do have a motion second for public hearing. Is there a motion to close public hearing?
Make a motion.
Mr. Shamley, second.
Second.
Mr. Shirley, seconds. Thank you, gentlemen. With that, I'll call for the question of closing public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. We are closed now. Okay. With that, gentlemen, there is a request for approval on the item that is before us on the Health Service District. What are your wishes?
I make a motion we approve. I don't have to comment.
Okay.
Second.
Second by Mr. Shirley. Comment, Mr. Shamley?
I wanted to thank Chris. I had a lot of questions on this, and he gave me a lot of data that made me feel very comfortable that this was a good move for the public that we serve. So I appreciate that extra.
Thank you.
No.
You're welcome.
Appreciate you, Mr. Saxon, as well. So with that, committee members, our supervisors will go ahead and move forward. We do have let me go back. All in favor of, for the approval of item 1? All in favor, call for the question. All in
Aye.
favor? Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Motion passes. Thank you. All right, with that, I believe that there is a request to remove item 2. Mr. Shamley?
Chairman, I would like to table this item. I got a bunch of new data from one of our providers this weekend, and there was no way to substantively react, of course, because the county wasn't open. So I've asked Mr. Sexton and Mr. Patterson to meet with me and them, and we can work this out and make sure that it's best for everybody before we move forward. And then, I would, ask as well that we just put it on the very next time we meet, if we can work this all out, the numbers.
Okay. There's a motion to table by Mr. Shamley until the next meeting. I guess that's first part of March. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Supervisor Shirley. Okay, we have a table motion. All in favor of tabling?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. Motion passes, and the item is now tabled till the next meeting or until the information is provided. Again, thank you.
Thank you.
With
for your
that,
time.
let me call for a motion to adjourn our Public Hearing Service District
I make a
meeting.
motion.
Second.
Second by Supervisor Shirley for adjournment. All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. Public Health District is now adjourned. Let me go ahead and go to the next item on our agenda, which is notice of public meeting for the Library District. Let me go ahead and call that Library District meeting to order. We do have 2 items for discussion, and I'll turn the time over now.
Good morning, Chairman and board members.
Morning.
Both of these items deal with strategic planning. Just very quickly, strategic planning is a process that we do in each of the library districts. Concho is our last district that has not done the last library that has not done this. We invite the public to come and be a part of the decision making so that our funds and so forth are being used to meet the needs of the patrons in the library. And there are different stages as we go through this. And so as we ask for approval of these 2 items, we're in different stages in 2 of the different libraries. And the first one, discussion and possible approval of the completed strategic plan for the Greer Memorial Library.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, there's a request for approval on item 1, the strategic plan. Information is provided as well. So, gentlemen,
I make a motion we approve.
Second.
second. We have a motion by Mr. Shamley, and second by Supervisor Shirley. Okay, any other discussions? If not, call for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous, 3 in favor. Okay, thank you. Next items,
Discussion and possible approval of community representatives, proposed budget, and strategic planning process for the Concho Public Library. They're just starting their process.
Okay, thank you. Again, possible action here, gentlemen?
Make a motion with question.
Okay,
Second.
second by Supervisor Shirley. Mr. Shamley?
Mr. Erling, there was, last time I met with you, you were working on the committee. Have you been able to fill all those slots?
They're not totally filled
Okay.
yet, but we did put that on the list.
Okay.
The changes that you asked for,
Okay,
that
great.
should be in the.
Yeah, we're
backup that you
additions to have Tanya
Additions. We have
engaged.
that. Once this is done, then she goes ahead and does the rest of the process and actually contacts the people and get their commitment, hopefully.
Thank
Be
you,
a
ma'am.
part of that.
Okay, we do have a motion second for, is there any other questions? If not, I'll call for the question. Approval. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous, 3 in favor, none opposed. Okay, with that, I guess I'll look for a motion to adjourn our library district meeting.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Shamley, second by Supervisor Shirley. All in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's 3 in favor, none opposed, unanimous. With that, let's go ahead and proceed further down to our regular agenda of Apache County Board of Supervisors for February 6th. We have several items that are on the agenda, so we'll go to item number 1, Sheriff's Office. Sheriff Dedden.
Chairman of the board, members of the board, appreciate you giving me this opportunity to address you for a brief moment this morning. I'm P.J. Arden, the Sheriff of Graham County, neighbor to the south of you a ways. And the reason for me being here this day is back in December last year, we had the opportunity to have a new facility that was built, and we moved our inmates into our new facility. With the help of your sheriff's office here in Apache County, they came and assisted us in the night of our move. Anyone that knows that's been involved in situations like this, when you're moving a lot of your best population in your county from one location to another, it can sometimes be a difficult time and task. But with the gracious help of your sheriff and other members of the sheriff's office, Brandon's not here, but Commander Cervello, those guys there brought their equipment with them, very well trained people with them. I just have a very small little deal I'd like to read, and it says in this address to Sheriff Dedman. So, dear Sheriff Dedman, I would like to extend my appreciation to you for sending your detention officers and resources to help us move our inmates to our new facility on December 21st, 2017. Your department's dedication and commitment to providing assistance when needed is outstanding. The professionalism displayed by your staff was second to none, and it made our job much easier. You are indeed a professional organization and should be proud of your staff. Thank you again for your valuable and much appreciated assistance. Please give a special thanks to those officers directly involved. Respectfully, Sheriff Preston J. Allred.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Also, before we ever built our, sorry for the side note, but before we ever built our facility, your facility is one of them that we came and also toured. We toured many facilities. We were able to take good from a lot of them. The staff was very professional the days that we came here to do that. So we're grateful for that opportunity to be able to do those things. Now, on your very far side note, I'm jealous you guys still have Alan Perkins up here with you, and I wish we had him back home. So you stole him from us. But he's a great man, and you also have Mr. Whiting up here with you, also in your attorney's office. But anyway, you're very well staffed. Be very pleased with the performance of your sheriff's office. You have great leadership in your sheriff's office. Sheriff Dedman is a past president of the Arizona Sheriff's Association. Brandon Eager has been involved in many instrumental things with the emergency services. Commander Cervello, he's been instrumental in a lot of different trainings and things for detention officers throughout the state of Arizona. So maybe not everybody that's involved with the county network or here in the room with us today is aware of the talents that your sheriff's office has, but many of us throughout the state are very aware of them, and we appreciate you sharing them with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Sheriff Dedman?
Thank you, Sheriff. Quite a ways for you to travel up here for a thank you note here from your office. Again, you know, this shows that we are, all the sheriffs in Arizona, the 15 sheriffs are working together. when one needs help, we always go out there and offer our assistance. In this case, we did. I'd like to thank my Commander Cervello and his staff, Sergeant Ruben Garcia, for doing a job well done down there when they were doing the prisoner transport. So, again, thank you for coming up, Sheriff, and thank you for the letter here, and God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Just a quick note from, as the Board of Supervisors, I do appreciate the cohesive and willing to work together and to bring the recognition, working together as one sheriff to another. So I do appreciate you working and bringing the recognition to our sheriff, Mr. Dedman. So there's no action needed here, it's just a recognition. Let's go ahead and proceed further. I don't know if there's any other comments supervisors would like to make, but if we can. Okay. All right, so we'll go ahead and move down to item 2, Superior Court. Judge Latham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, supervisors. The Superior Court's here today to request approval. The court has hired Troy Zarniska as our court administrator, replacing Suann Zarniska, who was transferred to the probation department. The court, one of our grants that was state funded over the years, it was an equation-based grant, has diminished. So it caused us to sort of restructure a lot of positions as well as responsibilities. So that's kind of why we did this shuffling. But Mr. Zarniska is well qualified. He's worked for the court now for going on 4 years. But prior to that, he had significant managerial experience in the police department in Eager. So this position is within our budget, doesn't require any increase in our budget. It's actually what we had budgeted previously before we made the change, and it is slightly below the midpoint of the salary study range.
Thank you, Judge Latham. Okay, with that, gentlemen.
Move we approve.
Is a motion, Mr. Shirley? Second. The motion and a second. Questions, comments? If not, call for the question on your approval. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. 3 in favor, none opposed. With that, thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor.
Your Honor. Okay, with that, item 3, County Manager.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the board. Today we have before you consent agenda items A through D, and we would recommend approval.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Patterson. Gentlemen?
Make a motion. We approve.
Second.
Motion by Supervisor Shamley, second by Supervisor Shirley. Any questions, comments? None? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous. Okay, motion carries. With that, let's go down to item 4, elections.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board.
Morning.
Morning.
This item's for discussion and possible approval of the recommendation of the Republican Party County Chairman, Thomas Samoff, determine vacancies exist in the office of Precinct Committeeman and appoint the following for the Concho Precinct: Jim Zawacki, Connie Zawacki, and Tracy Howard. For the Springerville Precinct, Earl Cochran.
Thank you. Okay, gentlemen?
I make a motion. We approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Questions, comments? If not, call for the question for your approval. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Romero. Next is also Elections Department. Let me go ahead and call on Mr. Romero again.
This item is for discussion and possible approval of a call for election on November 6, 2018 for Ganado Fire District due to district's inability to operate and take legal action due to not having a functional board, and discussion and possible action regarding the appointment of an interim fire district board members or an administrator pursuant to ARS 48-803B.
Thank you, Mr. Romero. There is a call for the action. Is there a motion? There is also, just for recognition, we do have Chief Whitty here from Ganado Fire District, and McCarlo, I believe is his name. I can't remember. So, thank you, gentlemen, for being here. There is a request for possible approval.
Chairman, I have a question first
Okay, Mr.
for
Shanley?
clarification. It seems like there's almost two actions desired in here. Mr. Whiting, do we need to make a motion for each piece?
Mr. Whiting?
Yes, you can if you want to, just for clarity's sake, but the agenda item does cover it, so whatever's convenient for the board or easier. It may be clear to do that with whatever you wish.
Mr. Shanley?
I make a motion we approve a call for election for Ganado Fire District.
Second?
Second.
Supervisor Shirley seconds. With that, we do have a live motion. Any other further discussions? Hearing none, call for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. 3 in favor, it's unanimous. Thank you, Ms. Romero.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item 6, school superintendent. Mr. Williams?
Good morning, Chairman Shepherd, Supervisor Shanley, Supervisor Shirley. This morning, we're requesting your approval to establish a new position called the Consortium Director. It's range 70, and to promote our Alex Madrid to fill that position. This replaces a vacancy that we had from our previous director, and this should result in immediate savings of about $32,000 in our budget. This is, again, self-funded. The consortium is self-funded, and I would hope you will encourage us or allow you to pass this motion. Is there any questions I can ask? Answer, I guess.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Gentlemen?
I make a motion we approve.
Motion to approve by
Second.
Supervisor Shanley, second by Supervisor Shirley. Okay, any further discussions? Questions? Nothing. Hearing none, so call for the question for approval. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 7, Treasurer's Office. Ms. Begay.
Good morning, Yat Ebene, Shinandai, Honorable Shepherd, Shamley, Dolce, Mr. Shirley, in the audience. The Treasurer's Office, discussion and possible approval to extend the county banking services agreement for a period of 1 year based on mutual consent from both parties pursuant to Arizona Revised Statute 35-325.
Thank you. Gentlemen,
So moved.
there is a motion by Supervisor Shirley,
I'll make a second with questions.
second by Supervisor Shamley. Mr. Shamley, questions?
Ma'am, how are you?
I'm great, thank you.
Good. I was curious, I noticed in the agreement, the previous agreement approved for the initial 3 years, it says the extension would be for 2 years or requesting 1. Is there a strategic reason for that, or?
According to the statute on the,
Because I'm just going by the backup.
we were going to go for the 2 years. However, we did reach out to NBA if they can do a supporting letter, but as of today, we haven't received anything. So we can always extend another year, a year from today.
And that was going to lead to my next question, Chairman. I didn't see the mutual letter, because the way I read it, each party's supposed to have a letter.
The mutual letter they're talking about is the contract.
That's
The
it?
initial contract. It does state in there 10 years banking services. However, by law, we have to go back to the 3 years and the 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So this doesn't mean that we're just requesting for 1. We always can come back next year. And then in the meantime, on behalf of the citizens of Apache County, we want to reach out and do a little bit of survey. So when we do RFP, we can try to complement the county's needs across the northern and the southern.
Okay, there, Chairman.
Yes, sir.
So has National Bank consented to the 1 year in writing?
No. They have not responded to us. We did reach out to them. Maybe soon. But in the past, when we were doing extension, other service bank providers, they would send supporting documentation to us. So for that reason, we're just doing 1 year. But like I said, it doesn't mean that we're going to do the full 2 years.
Okay.
Okay, gentlemen. There is a motion second. Questions by Mr. Shamley?
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, sir.
I think Mr. Shamley brings up a good point. I was unaware that there's not been an agreement by our servicing bank. That does pose a legal problem. So maybe we could table this. Has to be done by the 1st in March. We have a board meeting on the 6th. So we could get that in writing, and we could bring it back on the agenda for next month. That would be the best thing to do, because it is a contract between us and the servicing bank. And if we don't have their agreement to alter that contract, we don't have the authority to do that. So we would need that in writing from the bank.
Okay, gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Whiting. I guess for further discussion, we do have a motion to approve, but there is a question on possible table action.
I'll rescind my motion.
Mr. Shamley rescinds his motion to approve. Mr. Shamley?
Yeah, I rescind it.
Okay. So with that, I guess there's no action until...
I make a motion we table. And if we have to have a special meeting, I don't see why we couldn't. Call in, telephonic.
Okay. Special meeting, table for special meeting for gathering the information and agreement that was provided by our Attorney General, County Attorney. With that, is there a second? Second by Supervisor Shirley. Okay, we have a table status. With that, all in favor of tabling?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, it's unanimous. 3 in favor, none opposed. Thank you. We'll look to Mr. Patterson, I guess, for the information when we can schedule a special Board of Supervisors meeting if needed. So we'll look to you for your guidance, and Mr. County Attorney as well. So with that, item 8, probationary
Thank you.
services.
Good morning, Chairman Shepard, Vice Chairman Shamley, and Supervisor Shirley.
Good morning.
If it'd be okay, can I lead with 9 and then go back to 8?
Gentlemen, is that okay with you guys? We go to item 9 first and then come back to 8? Okay.
It just kind of explains a little bit about what we're doing. Item 9 is a discussion possible approval to change the current detention sergeant position, a range 43, to a legacy teen center manager. There's a typo here. It should be range 43 as well. So it's the same level. 56% of this position is going to be funded by the administrative office of the courts, and then the rest of it will be handled within our current budget, and we have room for that. I'd like to make a note that with our legacy teen centers, we've made a name across the state for Apache County and our juvenile justice system, and the state's excited about it. We've had different counties come into our center, and they're trying to mimic us a little bit, and it's kind of fun being in the front here. So.
Okay, thank you. Gentlemen, item 9, there's a correction that's on our agenda form, but our agenda has 44 on that. I don't know if it's an issue, Mr. Whiting, but...
No, Mr. Chairman. You as the chairman can take items out of order if you so choose.
What about that range?
The range number.
The range 44 to 43.
That is fine as well. I apologize. I thought you were talking about the other issue he brought up earlier, but no, that's not an issue for the board. If the board approves that, the ranges are yours.
Okay, just let the record be known that on the agenda item that goes to the formulations of the agenda does have 43 in the correction. Agenda that we have in our that we have here has 44, but according to our county attorney, it shouldn't be an issue. It's understood and on the record for 40 salary range, or range 43 to a 43. So, okay. All right, gentlemen, there is action on this. Do I hear a motion?
Move be approved.
Move to be approved. Supervisor Shirley. Second. Okay, I guess I'll go ahead and second that motion. Okay, any other further discussions? If not, on item 9, call for the motion or call for question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Okay, with that, as noted, there's 2 in favor, none opposed, 1 abstention by Supervisor Shamley. Okay, motion succeeds, so we'll go back to item 8. Sir?
Item 8 is discussion and possible authorization to pay Suen Zarniska midpoint of salary range of 44, which would be $46,987. And we've asked that she be moved up to midpoint because of her experiences, her grant writing experiences, and currently she is working with the Administrative Office of the Courts on a quite large grant to hopefully help pay for the finishing of the loft as well as the lodge in Eager. That'll help us quite a bit, and she'll be going after a lot of other grants and funding for us.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Chairman, I believe, and Paul, I want you to make sure you clarified that 44 should be the 43. The same correction needs to be made. Is that correct?
On Suen?
Uh-huh. Is it still, well, she's supposed to be 44?
I believe it was 44.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I apologize.
No.
Okay. All right, with that, gentlemen, there is a request for approval. Hear a motion.
I make a motion we approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Okay, any other further discussions? Hear none, call for the question.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous, 3 in favor, none opposed. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, with that, let's move down to item 10. That is District 2. And again, Mr. Freeland, if you can present on my behalf here as our district manager.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Before you, we have our property lease for Ganado. We are looking at adding an additional 2.36 acres of land for material storage, and the current lease was of 2 acres. So with the combined total, we're looking at 4.36 to help us strategically plan for our roads in the county. We ask for your approval, members of the board and Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Freeland. Thank you. Gentlemen?
So moved.
Motion
Second.
by Supervisor Shirley, second by Supervisor Shamley. Any other discussions? Hear none? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. So we have 3 in favor and none opposed. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, members of the board.
Thank you. Okay, next item, Mr. Freeland, if you can stay there. District 2, again, possible action approval. If you can present Mr. Lester Yazzie.
Mr. Chair, and again, members of the board, before you, we are currently restructuring our organization in District 2 to be more efficient and more accountable for the funds that we allocate for our employees. In this particular instance, we are reclassifying our equipment mechanic 3 position to a shop foreman, and our shop foreman will be responsible for our fleet management and our heavy equipment management. We ask for your approval for this reclassification and salary increase, Mr. Chair, members of the board.
Thank you, Mr. Freeland. Gentlemen?
Mr. Chair, if I may clarify also, I also see that we have the custodial groundkeeper position also, and that position is being consolidated into 1 full-time position. Sorry about that. I just needed to clarify that also.
Thank you, Mr. Freeland. Okay, gentlemen?
Make a motion we approve.
Motion, second. Okay, there is a motion and a second. Any further discussions, questions? Hear none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's 3 in favor, none opposed. It's unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Freeland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Also, let's go down to item 12, District 3. Mr. Shamley, I believe, or if there's anybody.
Chairman, I'll go ahead and handle it. I think they have the information, but I'll read the item. District 3, discussion regarding the request of call for election for White Mountain Community Special Care District on May 15th, 2018. And I'll turn the time as far as the discussion is concerned. I think we had some comments from the Attorney's Office, there was a legal issue there, and then I think there's additional public that would like to speak, Chairman.
Okay. Just for the record, we do have a public comment form that has been filled out by Ms. Crabtree on item 12. If I may, supervisors like to recognize Ms. Crabtree, and usually we do about two minutes, I believe, for public comment. 3 minutes? Okay. Ms. Crabtree?
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak. I do hope that you will consider the call for the special election for the special hospital district. This hospital district is critical to this area. My husband about a year and a half ago had a stroke, and the ambulance service took him over to the hospital over there. He was airlifted down to Phoenix. He was in and out of surgery within that 4-hour window that's critical for a stroke patient. By not calling this election, it's my understanding that there's going to be a gap in funding for the ambulance and the ER at Springerville. So I would very much like to see this thing voted on. Mr. Shumley, I have always really respected you for my being able to come to you with elections. I did very much resent some of your stuff in your response to my email. So I do hope that you will pass this. This is critical to us, and I thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Crabtree. Okay, any other further discussions, supervisors?
Is there any more slips?
Do you have a motion?
Record, I do have just one request for call from the public. Supervisor Shirley?
Okay, I'll go ahead and move that we approve the call for election.
It's just discussion.
That's a discussion?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I think there was a gentleman here that, if you feel okay with.
I did not fill out.
Oh, okay. Well, I have some points to clarify here for the sake of the chairman and others. I will be providing the emails so that Beth and our intern manager can add them to this file. There was a lot of emails that went around this topic, but ironically, when I was first contacted, was almost a week after I was told that there would be the cutoff date for their special election to begin with. Secondly, upon doing some more research, I was told about the ambulance issue, and I'm glad that the ambulance was able to serve your husband, ma'am. But on the ballot here, there's copies I believe the board has. The ballot was in 2008, and it was for a 5-year for ambulance to get funding. So, in the going back and forth, then the emails turned into an accusation that Mr. Whiting and Mr. Hamlin were trying to shut down the hospital and ambulances. So throughout this process, it's been very hard to get any clarification. Also, elections was engaged with the hospital district's attorney, and there's questions whether the thoroughness of the paperwork was ever committed. And at that point, I had contacted Mr. Joe Young from the county attorney's office to clarify the issue, and he wrote up a small memo, legal memo, concerning the dates and timing of their election. And at this point, I can't see that we can call an election, that it should have been done actually last November.
Okay. I understand this is just to be discussion. There's no action needed. Mr. Whiting?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. That's correct. Let me clarify, it may be helpful for the audience or other members who are watching the meeting. The legislature, prior to 2014, passed a law. It's ARS 16-204, subsection F, just for reference, Let me read that. I think it'll help clarify the legislature's intent. It says the legislature finds and determines that for the purpose of increasing voter participation and for decreasing the costs to the taxpayers, it is a matter of statewide concern that all elections in this state be conducted on a limited number of days, and therefore the legislature finds and declares that the holding of all elections on certain specific consolidated days is a matter of statewide concern. This section preempts all local laws, ordinances, and chapter provisions to the contrary. So the legislature, in its wisdom or not, however you choose to look at that, decided that all elections will be held on certain days. The statute goes on to read that, and I'm quoting now, an election must be held on the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November for the approval of an obligation or other authorization requiring or authorizing the assessment of a secondary property taxes by a county, city, town, school district, community college, or special taxing district, except as provided in Title 48. So that's the legislature's intent. That's their concern. They passed that law. It goes into effect in 2014. And if you look at Title 48, which governs a special health care district, which is a secondary property tax, there are no exceptions that allow a special health care district to act outside of Arizona law. So, unfortunately, it's just a simple legal matter. We don't represent the health district. The county attorney's office does not. Unfortunately, whoever does may not have been aware of this law, or their president or whoever runs the health care district, their board, apparently was not aware of this law. So we would love to help out. I'm sure the board would, but unfortunately, Arizona law doesn't allow that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for that clarification. Again, our statutes that I guess we have to abide by. Again, this item is just for discussions, is my understanding. So with that, gentlemen, I guess we'll go ahead and move on to item 13.
Chairman, this item is discussion and possible approval of the Nutrioso Community Center use agreement, and we'd recommend approval.
Gentlemen?
Make a motion, we approve.
Second.
With the comment.
Motion and second. Mr. Shamley, comment?
Yeah, I wanted to especially thank the community board from Nutrioso Community Center for all their volunteer time, including meeting. And Mr. Young, the only time they could meet was on one of his days off, and he still came in to meet with that community and work out this whole MOU mutually. So they deserve a public thanks.
Okay, thank you. With that, if there are other further discussions, if not, there is a motion and a second for item 13. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's 3 in favor, none opposed. The vote is unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen. With that, let's go down to item 14. Another District 3, discussion possible approval for hazard fuel mitigations manager, range 40. Mr. Patterson, or?
Chairman, again, it's discussion and possible approval of that hazard fuels mitigation manager, range 40, and they would recommend approval.
Okay. Gentlemen?
Make a motion, we approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion? Hear none? Okay, call for the question. All in favor of approving?
Aye.
Aye. Vote is unanimous. 3 in favor, none opposed. Thank you, gentlemen. With that, let's go ahead and, Mr. Patterson, I believe item 15, again, if you can clarify.
Yes, given additional information that's been provided, we'd like to pull this item and put it on the next agenda.
I guess if that's a request, I guess we can, I don't know if there needs a formal action to take off the agenda, but if not, maybe we can proceed further to item 16.
Excellent. This is discussion and possible approval of a resolution appointing the trustees to serve on the Arizona Local Government Employee Benefit Trust. This is our insurance company, gentlemen. We're self-insured. Originally, the agreement had actual names of individuals. Currently, there is none of those individuals working for Apache County, so we've put it to titles, and the titles, as you can tell, is the only change on the document, and it is the county manager and the health HR director.
Okay.
And we'd recommend approval.
Thank you, Mr. Patterson. With that, gentlemen,
I make a motion we approve.
Second.
a motion and a second by Supervisor Shamley and Supervisor Shirley. Any further discussions, comments? Hear none. Okay, all in favor of approval?
Aye.
Aye. The vote is unanimous, 3-0. With that, thank you, gentlemen, again. Let's move down to item 18, I believe. Yeah.
All right. Supervisor,
So,
17.
17, I'm sorry.
Chairman, members of the board, again, this is discussion and possible action regarding the schedule of Apache County's 2018-2019 budget. In your packet, you will see the calendar that we proposed, and it lists the dates, deadlines, action to be taken, and the assigned departments that will be in charge of those actions. This is very similar. It moves up by 1 month the budget process in that it passes the tentative budget as of June 1st, or the first meeting in June. Normally it's done in the second or the first meeting of July. This is done by several counties. It's not out of the ordinary, but it does give the opportunity, if necessary, for the board to push it a month if they needed to, but it does put it out as in the first week of June. It also, gentlemen, puts in a new item. It was requested by the board to look into. We have part of item 3 schedules and the opportunity to have a discussion on who you would like to meet with during the budget process, as far as individually with those departments or as a group, and so that's there for your discussion, and I'll leave it to you, Chairman.
Thank you, Patterson. Gentlemen, possible actions required to approve the schedule of the 2018-2019 budget.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion by Supervisor Shirley, second by Supervisor Shamley.
Question, sir.
Your question, Mr. Shamley.
Yes, sir. Mr. Patterson, I understand that this does move it back a month. Will the departments, and excuse my ignorance, everyone, will the departments have enough data to work with before that month earlier? Or is it too tight for them?
It's, Chairman, Supervisor Shamley, it is tight. I think it's doable. I think the possibility, I think it's doable. It'll mean additional work on certain staff members, and I think they're capable of doing it. So we can go this direction. I think the only question is the length of time and those individuals that the board as a group would like to meet with. That, as you can tell on this, as May 1st, that's the first meeting in May for the Board of Supervisors. We have it as a budget hearing, and the question will become, of the 25 or so departments and elected officials, how would you like them presented, and how do you want to manage that process, or do you? Is it something you want to do on an individual basis, where the departments come individually to you as you request, or do you want to handle it on that board meeting that day?
Okay. Gentlemen?
Chairman, I think we can still vote on the motion, and we could decide on a schedule as we have more time to think about it.
Okay.
On our preference.
Okay. All right. With that, Mr. Shirley, Supervisor Shirley, Marlena.
Thank you so much for discussing the budget. The past being the treasurer, and I really appreciate Mr. Patterson giving us the opportunity to present our budget to the board, because in the past, this is what it is. So with that, I think the Board of Supervisors really need to look at each department and see how our budgets are every year. So with that, I do support Mr. Ryan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, gentlemen, then this is just the approval of the schedule here, so once approval, I will understand everything will be sent out, and I guess I'll leave it up to each individual supervisor as how they want to proceed with the departments.
That'll be okay.
Okay. We do have a motion, second. There are any other discussions? Call for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous, 3-0. Okay, item
Thank you,
8.
gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Patterson. Item 18, Human Resources Department.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Supervisors.
Morning.
The Human Resources Department asked that we have discussion and possible action regarding the progress of the county manager application screening process, interview scheduling, making offers based on interview results, possible contract negotiation parameters, and any other matters necessary to complete the hiring process for the county manager position. The HR department did put together a memo and some information for the supervisors, and those were emailed and hand-delivered on Thursday. The specific items that the HR department would like direction on are to determine the number of candidates to interview, to provide some available dates so that we can schedule those interviews with the applicants, for the board to advise whether the interviews will be held during an executive session or in a public meeting, for the board to approve the suggested interview questions, and if there's any changes that need to be made, we can do those through email or over the phone, of course, and to designate the Apache County Attorney's Office to extend offers and or negotiate contract terms with your selected candidate, and of course, any other additional requests or direction that the board feels appropriate.
Thank you. Okay, I believe we do have our package. There are 6 things for the requesting for direction on. So there is item 18 that's before us. Gentlemen? On the request for recommendation, one's determine the number of candidates. Number 2 is provide.
Do you want to do them each one? I don't know what your preference is, Chairman, or what the attorney may have to weigh in on it.
Mr. Whiting?
Again, the board can do whatever you wish in regards to taking them in, or it may be easier just for the notes and for the minutes and for our clarity to receive your instructions appropriately and carry out your wishes if maybe we take them one at a time. But whatever you desire, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Whiting, there are six items for recommendations, so maybe we'll just take it one by one. Number of applicants, there is 5, but we can narrow it down to the 3. I guess that was one of the recommendations here, so maybe take that.
I'd make a motion that we consider 5 applicants.
Okay. I don't know if we want to do individually by motion, Mr. Whiting, or just a recommendation and then come up with the...
If you do it individually, that would probably be easier for Beth to take minutes and then us to receive instructions, but whatever is easier for the board as well.
All right, there is a motion for all 5 on item 1 on the determining number of candidates to interview. Is there a second? Is there a second? Okay. With that, there is no second on item 1. Again, there are either 5 or 3.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to see 3. I think 5 is too many. So if Mr. Shamley is okay with that, I'll second that motion to interview 3.
Okay. Mr. Shamley for 3?
The reason for my 5 was we could capture 50% of the applicants. I was just doing it by math is all. Not names per se. I can go with 3, so I would amend my motion to that I make a motion that we interview 3 applicants.
I'll go ahead and second that.
All right, there is a motion for 3. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. 3 it is. Next, number 2 is providing your available dates between February 12th and 21st. There is, can you make clarification on that? I know there was 12, 13, 14, 1 week, and then the following, I think it was 20 and 21st.
Correct.
Okay. Just for note, the 20 and 21st, I am not available, gentlemen, so I don't know how the 12th, 13th, and 14th works.
I was gonna ask for the 20th, so.
Okay.
Sorry, we can't ever talk, that's the problem, so until we're here, so. I have, the topic that we tabled earlier concerning the medical examiner, the people that have brought me the new information requested 9 a.m. on the 13th. If I give them an hour and then am allowed time to get over here, I could do the 13th.
Okay.
If that was okay with you two.
I'm trying to find a...
I know there was a page, it's hard in this binder.
13 would work better for me, Chairman.
As long as we schedule it later in the day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Noon forward or whatever.
Okay, for the 13th. There's a motion for the 13th.
I make a motion,
Time?
we do the 13th.
Go ahead and second that. The county attorney asks us for the time.
Yes, sir. That's what I was going to ask. What time do you want to convene? We have 3.
11.
11, okay? Yeah.
Because you folks have to, Mr. Shirley, you got quite a drive, don't you? I'm just...
I get up at 4 in the morning.
All right, well, well, I've already got the 9 a.m.
I get up at 4 and I run at 4 or 5.
All right.
Yeah. So I'd say 9 o'clock, that would work for me.
What time?
9, that'd be all right?
That's when my conflict is.
Oh.
Yeah, in the Round Valley.
What would work for you?
Well, if let's do 10, and I'll ask that gentleman to come over here and meet, and that way I'm already here.
Would help, sir, if we can do that.
All right, 10?
Okay, I'll go with 10.
Okay, there's a motion second for February 13th at 10 a.m. Call for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. Okay, next item here is advise whether interviews held in executive session or in public meeting. Gentlemen?
I make a motion, we do it in executive session.
I'll second it.
Okay. There's a motion, a second for executive session. All in favor? If there's no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous. Executive session will be. Item 4 is approved and suggest interview questions provided. Any suggestion changes by email. Okay, there is a tab, I think it was 7, that has about, I don't know how many questions on there. If that's good enough, gentlemen. And maybe a couple of individual questions. I don't know how. I know there's a process in being consistent with other additional questions, so we just got to be okay with that. If you can review this, and if there's, maybe we can work by email if we want additional questions to the ones that are listed. And so,
Chairman, can I ask the attorney a question? Mr. Whiting, if I come up with some additional question, as long as I ask it of all 3, now that we've decided 3, I could email that in and have it added to the packet? And then it's legal, right?
Yes, Mr. Vice Chairman, and also you can ask individual questions in the interview as well. We just want to make sure that there's a set of questions asked to each candidate, but then there are personalized questions that you can ask based on their answers and further information that you want as well.
So I'd make a motion, Chairman, that we approve the questions in tab 7.
okay.
As a minimum.
All right, as a minimum.
Mm-hmm.
All right. The motion, second?
That allows for personal questions, right, Mr. Chairman? What the county attorney alluded to?
Excuse me?
That allows for, your motion allows for personal questions?
Yeah, just...
Per the...
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Because they may say something that will make me think of something else, and then,
Well, I just like to believe...
career.
Yeah, I just like to believe it's open, when you're wanting to hire somebody, you don't want to be cornered, by a set of questions.
No.
Yeah, so... Okay, with that, I'll go ahead and second the motion.
Okay, there is a motion, a second. Any other discussions? Not, I call for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous, 3 in favor, none opposed. Okay, with that, item 5, designate Apache County Attorney's Office to extend the office to negotiate contract terms, select a date candidate. Gentlemen? comments, questions, I guess, for
I
discussion?
just had questions first, Chairman.
Go ahead, sir.
Mr. Whiting, I saw that there's copies in the back here of this binder provided to us, exhibits, if you will, from different counties. So that we have examples that different counties have used for their managers available here. Do we have one that we would be fixed on for our county at this point? And these were provided as examples, or do we still need to develop a hard and fast one?
We have a draft for our county.
Yeah.
But it's not something that has been passed by the board or approved. So that would be something that I would look to your direction for at the time. That would be sent out beforehand if you decide to hire any one of these candidates. And if there's a meeting in which you're going to discuss that and possibly extend the job offer, then we would present that to the board prior to approval for your input and consideration before we finalized it.
Mr. Chairman?
Well, Chairman, there's some good points to these various contracts. So I'd actually rather provide some input first and have a good contract for the county to move forward. There's been quite a time gap since last time this has been addressed here, and I think we ought to be safe and have a good agreement. I'm not ready to really say any one of these is perfect.
Okay, and again, this just helps with the direction that is needed to move us along. Is this something that we can defer later on down the road once we get a draft for us to see?
Yes, we sure can, and if that's something that the board wants to instruct the county attorney's office to do, we will get that taken care of and send you a draft, and then we will work with you on your input to get whatever you feel is the best possible contract for the county and for yourselves.
Okay. With that,
Chairman?
gentlemen,
Chairman, am I to understand that otherwise we don't have to have a contract?
Mr. Whiting?
Yes, that is correct, Mr. Supervisor. The board is not required to enter into a contract with the county manager. It's something that's commonly done, but it is not required.
Okay.
Anything further, Mr. Shirley? If not, I guess, again, this is something we don't need to, if it's a recommendation to deal with at a later time, maybe the draft or further discussion later on down the road, I would assume that we would come back later on this item 5. If there's no objection, I guess we don't need a motion or second on that, but if for the record, that is something we still need to develop and see as further on down the road and have that discussion at that time. Okay. Item 6, is there any additional requests or directions from the Board of Supervisors that you see deemed necessary for providing guidance going down the road with this?
Not at this point.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, just briefly, so I make sure that when we leave, in case we don't meet for another month, and I'm clear on what you want our office to do, should we begin working on a contract and give a draft contract to the board? Would that be helpful if we consolidated everything and gave you a draft for your review and then started taking input and changes from you, or do you want us to start working on a contract if you so decide that in a month or so?
I'd like to see a draft at least, so we have that as an option that's feasible to address. It doesn't mean we're going to, that the board ultimately may just decide not to have a contract, but I'd like to see something to read.
Okay. Anything, Supervisor Shirley?
I can go with that.
All right, so I guess for a draft purpose, Mr. Whiting, for us to look at later on in the comment and make suggestions, again, it's something, a further discussion that can happen down the road once we get to that point. For a contract, if a contract is needed or not, but at least we have a well-drafted, well-rounded one with our inputs by the time it comes. Okay? Yeah. All right, Mr. Whiting, there are three items that we moved forward, and I'm sure that we got that on the record. Okay. So with that, let's go ahead and, where were we? Item 18. There were several actions taken, 1, 2, 3, 4 items that were voted on and moved forward. So I don't know if we want to consolidate all that in one motion or just accept it as moving forward.
Let's just accept and move on.
You may accept it.
All right. Okay, so with that, we've had item 18 discussed. We'll go down to item 19.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Item 19 is from the County Attorney's Office. This is for discussion possible approval of the Arizona Department of Public Safety. It's the Victims Crime Act, which is DPS grant number 2018-224. It's in the amount of $299,464 with no cents. We are required as the County Attorney's Office to match that over a 3-year period, so it's approximately $25,000 a year. We do have that budgeted for, and we would appreciate the approval to do that. It helps us with our victims of the various crimes, providing them services such as anything that ranging from counseling to medical care. We can actually provide services for a lot of different things I won't get into, but it's a good grant. The match is not very steep, and we do have it budgeted for.
Thank you. Gentlemen?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Supervisor Shirley, second by Supervisor Shamley. Any further discussions? If not, call for the question for your approval.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous, 3 in favor, none opposed. With that, down to item 20. Mr. Whiting?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item 20 again is from the County Attorney's Office. This is discussion possible approval for the election of the Attorney General's Office to represent us in the tax litigation that's ongoing versus Transwestern Pipeline. This specific approval would be for the assessment of 2018. The Attorney General's Office already represents us and all of the other counties that the pipeline passes through. This has to do with centrally valued property that comes out of Phoenix, but they are representing us for the tax years of 16 and 17, and this is just a continuation of that. We wanted to bring it before the board so you're aware of it as we continue on with that litigation, and we'd appreciate approval.
Thank you, Mr. Whiting.
So moved.
So moved by Supervisor Shirley.
Second.
Second by Supervisor Shamley. Any further discussions? Okay, don't hear any. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous, 3 in favor, none opposed. Item 21, County Attorney's Office.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item 21 is following a possible executive session for legal advice pursuant to ARS 38-431-0A3 or A4, so I don't have to read that again. Consultation with the board's legal counsel regarding contemplated litigation. This is a action that would result in, if the board chose to do so, hiring of outside legal counsel in regards to the ongoing opiate crisis and all the other things you've probably read about or heard about in the news. There's various litigations that are being filed and conducted right now in different parts of the United States. We were approached by several different firms and have spoken with them. This firm seems to be a good fit for our county. They've handled this litigation before, and it's something that we could discuss in executive session if the board feels that's appropriate, and maybe probably the best place to do that so we can talk about certain legalities of it. But anyways, that's the gist of the motion, or the gist of the item and the request for the motion.
Mr. Whiting.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not exactly sure what we need to be discussing in executive session. That this is a public crisis. As far as I know, the opioid crisis. If there's action that we need to legal action that this board or this county needs to be taking to address the crisis, I think we probably can address it in open session if that's okay, Mr. Whiting.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Supervisor, whatever the board feels is appropriate.
This is a discussion and possible action relating to hiring of outside counsel. So with that, gentlemen.
I think we've gone this route before, relative to other issues. I don't think it's really out of our way to approve such a maneuver. So I don't know if the chair wants to entertain a motion to go ahead and take action. I'm ready to make that motion.
Yes, sir. Okay, I recognize your motion, Supervisor Shirley, for action.
I'll go ahead and move that we work with the county attorney to hire outside counsel to address this crisis that's also not only affecting Apache County, but in all the counties throughout the nation. So that's my motion.
Yes, sir. Sure, Shirley. Second?
A second with questions.
Second. Mr. Shamley, question?
Yes, sir. Mr. Whiting, what does the outside counsel provide to us?
And let me just give a quick background. They're based out of Phoenix. They're a multinational firm, but their offices, of course, are in Phoenix and also in D.C. They've undertaken this litigation before. We've looked at their work. We've looked at several others, and specifically to your question, what they will do for the county is they'll institute that action on behalf of Apache County, and then any resulting monies or settlement or anything that comes from that action will be given to the general fund with the direction of you three as the board on how we should spend that money, what we should do with that money, whether it's rehabilitation, whether it's education, or whatever else you feel is necessary. But they're going to provide the support that we can't, just based on our limited staff, in regards to trial preparation, depositions, all of the exhibits, the lawsuits in federal court, and all the things that they'll undertake, on our behalf to try to accomplish an award for us. So I apologize for the long answer, but basically they're going to represent us to try to settle this or litigate this on our behalf, and then we'll retain what they get for us. For your use, it's whatever you think is appropriate.
Mr.
Shamley.
Mr. Whiting, who exactly are they representing us to?
It would be in the federal district court in this specific instance, through the federal district court to the state of Arizona. So that would be the forum. There's specific big pharma, as it's referred to, or pharmaceutical companies that will be dealt with and that will be named. It'll be similar, I guess the best analogy I could give would be something similar to big tobacco.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Whiting. Any other further discussions, questions? If not, there is a motion to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Okay. 2 in favor, none opposed, 1 abstention by Supervisor Shamley. Motion carries. Okay, with that, we go to item 22, notification. Again, this is just notification for three areas. The Eastern County Association, February 14th, 3 p.m. Another notice of where two or more board members will be in attendance. The Small County Forum, February 14th at the CSA building. County Supervisors Association meeting on the 15th of February. CSA building in the address there, 19 West Washington Street. Okay, that's just a notification. It's on record here and on our agenda. Item 23 is a call to the public. Mr. Patterson, is there any other?
Chairman, we have no other ones available.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Patterson. With that, gentlemen,
Will we adjourn?
motion to adjourn by Supervisor Shirley.
Second.
Supervisor Shamley, motion to adjourn. All in favor of adjournment? Call for question.
Aye.
It's unanimous. We are officially adjourned at 9:43 a.m. Thank you.